Today on the show, a singular focus. We're going to focus on one player. If you're watching on YouTube, this guy behind me, Derick Hall, a player that in 2023, I mocked to the Seahawks exactly 0 times. In the hundreds of mock drafts, you know how addicted I am to those, that I did leading up to that draft, despite the big need at the time for another young pass rusher to be added to that room. It was a huge priority in that draft. I never mocked him to the Seahawks. Why? Because I just didn't think he was twitchy enough off the edge. Thought he had kind of a one-dimensional power game in what was a very deep and intriguing edge class. Just a few of the names drafted around a little bit before or after Derick Hall: Nolan Smith, Felix Uzoma, Isaiah Foskey, BJ Ojulari, Keon White, Byron Young, Yaya Diaby, lots of young talent. But if I had known about Derick Hall's life leading up to the draft, what he had to overcome early in his life just to be able to play football, let alone at an elite level, I would have had him in every single Seahawk draft. The Seahawks put a lot of weight on guys that can overcome adversity. Nobody in the league has had to overcome more adversity than Derick Hall. If you haven't heard the story yet, you're going to want to. Stick around and I'll share it with you.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Before we get into this, and hopefully my voice will hold up, on the day that I'm going to need my best narrator voice. It's a little shaky. But just one thing real quick, finalizing some travel plans to get back to Seattle in time for training camp. Tied some of those loose ends up today, so I will be heading back. Just as a reminder, I am being given access to the first few days of training camp to be able to cover it as a reporter. At that point, then we're going to sit down, media relations department, and talk about full-time credentials. But look ahead to that. In the meantime, the ways that you can support the channel and my endeavor as a full-time independent content creator is subscribe to the channel if you don't already. That is the number one best way that you can help support me on YouTube. And it's free. And if you want to be notified of new material, just hit that bell button. If you listen on audio on any of the major platforms, be sure to follow or subscribe, whichever is called for on that platform. Also, if you would leave a review or a rating on those as well, that really helps the show. And then all the other ways that you can help support me are listed and linked down below in the description, including some direct donation sites, as well as joining as a paid member here on YouTube or on Patreon, and check out the merch store while you're at it. All right. Well, if you've watched my show for very long, none of this is going to come as a surprise. You've heard how high I am, how bullish I am on Derick Hall as one of the players on the Seahawks that I think absolutely has a chance to break out and really make a name for himself across the league in this, his 3rd season. But he still seems to get overlooked anytime there are discussions about this young Seahawks roster. I think that's about to change because, as I said at the top, if you knew his whole story, you would never overlook him again, as I did leading up to the 2023 draft, because Hall's journey to the NFL began with his life being pronounced as over before it even got started. Anyone who ever reaches the heights of playing in the NFL has to overcome long odds, but no one can claim a journey to the big time quite like Derick Hall. Watch him play football for the Seattle Seahawks, and you would never suspect that his life was nearly over before it started. You see, Hall was born in Gulfport, Mississippi on March 19th, 2001. 4 months premature. I'm not kidding. 4 months before he was supposed to be born. He was actually born without a heartbeat, technically DOA, and had to be immediately resuscitated. For Hall's mother, Stacy Gooden Crandall, there was no warning, no abnormalities that showed up on any of her checkups, no cause for concern. Hall just showed up early, much too early. Doctors told his mother that he had a 1% chance to survive and offered her do not resuscitate paperwork. She refused to sign it. And in doing so, a mother's determination, belief, and will would be passed on to her newborn son in spades. Eventually, Derick was healthy enough to go home defying all the odds. It would take 6 years for him to catch up to his peers physically and developmentally, and even then there were yearly hospital visits, checkups, tests, just to be sure everything was okay. And he did have to battle asthma in those days, as his lungs took a while to develop. But then he started playing flag football at age 4 and tackle football at age 9. And then we fast forward a few years, and Hall was an all-state football and basketball player with a stack of offers from all the most prestigious football factories in the college game. A top 150 national recruit and the 8th ranked defensive end in the country, Hall ended up choosing Auburn over Florida State in a close recruiting battle, much to the chagrin of Ole Miss, who desperately wanted to keep Hall in his home state. At Auburn, it took a couple of seasons for Hall to become a full-time starter, but as a junior, he posted 13 tackles for loss and 9 sacks. And after considering entering the draft then, he chose to come back for his senior season. He ended his career with 146 tackles, 31 tackles for loss, and 19.5 sacks. And he was voted first-team All-SEC, not an easy task in the country's most prestigious conference. Not surprisingly, because we know our Seahawks love their Senior Bowl participants, it was his performance in Mobile, Alabama, during practices and in the game at the Senior Bowl that helped land him squarely on Seattle's radar, as his combination of run-stopping prowess and power pass rush impressed scouts. Hall hit the rest of the draft process out of the park as well, turning in an outstanding combine and pro day, racking up an RAS score of 9.4. Interestingly enough, one scouting service offered up as his closest pro comp to Cliff Averill. Same exact size for the Seahawks legend and Hall, but Hall eclipsed Averill in just about all of the speed and explosive testing. Desperately in need of more juice in their pass rush room, the Seahawks drafted Hall with the 37th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. And despite the fact he fell to the second round, as Seahawks reporter John Boyle detailed in his Behind the Curtain expose written after the draft that year, the Seahawks were happy to see him fall that far because they had a first-round grade on Hall. His rookie year was disappointingly quiet as he battled a shoulder injury in addition to the already daunting task of making the leap to the NFL at the age of 22. While he did contribute 38 tackles his rookie year, there were no sacks and really very few consequential plays. But last season, Hall served notice that he was becoming a force to be reckoned with, starting 14 games while recording 6 tackles for loss, 20 quarterback hits, and 8 sacks. And despite the rocky start to his life, Hall knew early on that he was destined for professional greatness. By the 8th grade, Hall's mom was finding notes he had written to himself and posted all around his house with his future goals, where he wanted to be 5, 10 years later, all sketched out. And now as we look to head into the 2025 season, I really think Hall is poised for a breakout year. His speed to power that was so prevalent on his tape at Auburn isn't the only thing he can do. He seems to have added some pass rush moves and improved in that area while proving he can also set the edge as a run defender. And in that way, I think he's surpassed where Boye Mafe is. And with questions surrounding how the team feels about Mafe and whether or not they may be open to offering him an extension that he's now eligible for as he enters into the last year of his rookie deal, man, I'm telling you, the more I watch of Derick Hall, I just feel like of all the young players in that edge room, I think he's the best. I think he has the highest ceiling, and he has a chance to be a foundational player for the Seahawks, and one that a year from now we'll be talking about an extension for him, whether or not Mafe is on the roster or not. Once again, before we get out of here, if you would please just subscribe to the channel. That's all I'm going to ask you to do here at the end of the show. It is the best way to support the channel. There's a thing called the YouTube algorithm. You may have heard of it, and there's a bunch of different factors that go into that. And what it does is it determines how aggressively YouTube is going to push a video out to other people that haven't watched the video before. And there are a bunch of analytics that you don't want to hear about, but one of the primary ones is just how many subscriptions you have. We beat the 10,000 mark. We're over that, onward and upward from here. If you watch the show, you like what I do, subscribe. Truly appreciate it. And all of you just for watching, engaging. Let me know down in the comments what you're expecting from Derick Hall this year. And also let me know if you were to choose one If you could only keep one long term, sign one to a second deal, would it be Mafe or would it be Hall? I'm Dan. This is Seahawks Forever. You can follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. All the other ways you can support the channel are listed down below. Join me tomorrow. Ooh, I kind of want to tease this. I don't really want to give it away. Let me just put it this way. A major national voice, and in my opinion, one of the smartest football minds on the planet, is going to be joining me on the show tomorrow to talk all things Seahawks, NFC West. This guy has such a broad knowledge of the league. We might get into some other non-Seahawk topics, but you're going to love this one. I am going to tease it. I'm not going to tell you his name. Tune in tomorrow for that. Thanks for watching, you guys. Forever and always, go Hawks. We'll see you tomorrow.